Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Jordan Garber Now podcast, and I am here with none other than former Major League pitcher and Pittsburgh Pirate, none other than Shane Youman. Shane, how you doing tonight, man?
Jordan, man, I'm doing all right. Had a busy day working with a few kids at my indoor baseball facility, but definitely making time out to hop on the podcast, man. Appreciate you having me on.
Excellent. Let's get right into it with the indoor facility you're talking about. What's that all about, and how long have you been running that for?
So, since I retired back in 2017, I've always wanted to do something and be able to give back to the youngsters playing the game of baseball. I started out doing some stuff at the Texas Rangers Youth Academy, and then went from there to started doing some private lessons. And just over the years since then, it's been about 3 years. Over the years, the client base has grown. I've become more passionate about helping youngsters learn the game and further develop uh, their skills. And as I got to know people down here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, my name starts to travel a little bit. People start recommending me or referencing me to others about doing pitching lessons, and clientele has grown a whole lot, not only from the teaching side, but the consulting side and the mentoring side. And I just felt it was time for me to go ahead and break loose and find a place for me to be stable and have a one-stop shop when it comes to all the things I'm doing with baseball and the youth out here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. And what I realized too is you feel so good when you give back and you teach all the knowledge you learned through all those years. And when you started
Oh,
out,
definitely.
it's amazing because it's great to all that time, from 2002 to 2016, all of that from what you learned from the Penn League, New York Penn League to the majors. It all is giving back to the kids, the community, and aspiring baseball players and stars. And that's how we see some big names in the draft, coming up, because baseball leads by generation, and there's a lot of that passes on through learning and teaching. And one thing we learn in pro wrestling, that probably applies the same in baseball, is the one day you feel like you know everything, get out of the door. Like, just walk out the door. Does that apply in baseball as well, that term?
I mean, not necessarily not in those words, but you look at it from the standpoint, Jordan, of you mentioned from 2002 throughout the duration of my career, which came to an end in 2016, 2017. But I'm sure just like the pro wrestling side of things happen way before then. I can say from 1985 when I first put on a baseball glove and stepped on a baseball field, that started because we all get out there to have fun, and maybe it's our parents that just signs us up for a particular sport, whether it's wrestling, hockey, football, baseball, basketball. They want us out the house. They want us to be active. They want us to use that energy and generate it towards something else as opposed to just running around the house terrorizing stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that starts, and then the dream happens to where you might see somebody doing the same thing that you're learning how to do, and you take a liking to that person and you follow that person or persons and try to emulate your game or your style after them. You're learning. That's where the learning process starts, and you continue to grow. I would say all of those things started from the very beginning with me. Everything that I learned from day one until the time I retired is what I'm pouring back into the community and the kids that I've come into touch with to help learn the game of baseball. So it's just the history, just like your love for wrestling. It started beyond your podcast, right? It started way
Yes.
beyond your podcast. It started a long time ago. So it's grown into something big now for you, and you're still looking to get bigger. So that's how I see it from the baseball standpoint.
And that's an amazing way to put it. And in terms of evolution and learning yourself early in your career, you won the College World Series in 2000 with the LSU Tigers with the likes of Brad Hopp, Brian Tallett, who's another great pitcher, Ryan Theriot, and Mike Fontenot, as well as many other great people. Trey Hodges as well. I believe he won the most
MVP.
MVP. Yeah. So how was that, man? Just the college years, not just all the partying and stuff like that in terms of a Division One college, because there's a lot of those times we don't want to talk about. But just being able to play in a Division One solid competitive conference, you cannot prepare for the minors more than that. And you know what? When you make it to NCAA Division One, that means you're on the right track and you're in that draft. The major leagues is already on your eye, and you might get selected. You might be that one, and that was your case. So, what was it like, man? That whole 2000 year.
So just as I stated a little earlier, Jordan, man, when it starts out at a young age, you're playing for fun, you're loving the game. I'm originally from Louisiana, and occasionally, back probably in the early '90s, 4 or 5 years into my youth career, we watching the College World Series on TV. You see LSU. Well, that's an hour and 15 minutes away from where I grew up in Louisiana. You see those guys every year in the College World Series, winning national championships or competing for a national championship at the very least. So that inspiration comes. Now I want to go to LSU. I have those dreams and aspirations of winning the College World Series. So when that dream became a reality and I found out, hey, that school is actually interested in you, although I was drafted out of high school, it was a no-brainer for me because I just watched them win back-to-back championships. I watched them win 4 championships in the last 8 years. I'm going to that school because I can identify with those players because a lot of them were local Louisiana guys, and I would watch them on TV every year. So to go there and to be around the guys that you've named that were part of the championship team with me in 2000, man, it's so many names that we can go on and continue to list that came through the program even before the 2000 team that has some type of bearing on my career, has some type of motivation or provided some type of motivation for me to go out there and be the best that I could be. I know you mentioned parties, but we got to definitely talk about the college parties, Jordan, because that's all part of the gig. But anyways, that year was special, man. We started off hot, lost 5 in a row. Fans booing us. We thinking our season's gonna be cut way short, and then that turns into us winning the SEC, going out there and winning the SEC tournament, and just kind of going undefeated in the postseason and completing a dream year by winning the College World Series, man. It's a surreal feeling. It's been 20 years, but when you think about it, it's always something new that comes to mind that we accomplished that we didn't even know or didn't even think about at the time. So that's just kind of how it goes, man. When you get locked in and get in that zone, it's nothing that can come and get in your way and keep you from doing whatever it is that you're trying to do. But we also had a family atmosphere. It was a brotherhood, so that played a huge role in us winning the championship in 2000.
Now, let's talk about college to minors, where, every single year you evolved into 2006, where you debuted for the Pirates. But first year, 2002, Williamsport 4-0, 37 innings pitched, 37.1, and 48 strikeouts. More strikeouts than innings pitched in your first season. So, what was it like at the end? Let's talk about the end of 2002. What was your objective? And did you have anything in the tank that you were hiding? Because 2003 and 2004 and 05 were even better.
Well, for me, and you mentioned going from a big-time Division One program and into the minors. But when you're playing in the SEC, especially back when I was playing in college, the Southeastern Conference in baseball, it was always compared to, and now we use aluminum bats, so it's a little bit different, but with the aluminum bats, they compared the SEC competition to AA competition. So you're playing at a high level every weekend, no matter who it is that's coming into town or no matter who you're traveling to play, you're playing at a high level. So the mental side of the game, which was huge for me in going to college, that played a huge role in my development into a professional. Physically, I had certain tools and was able to do certain things, but the mental side of the game is what helped me elevate my game all the way around. So that played a huge role in me going into Williamsport my first year in pro ball and adjusting to certain things that go on. Had great pitching coaches in the minor leagues with the Pirates to prep me for that season. Had a great pitching coach who was Scott Emerson. He was my first pitching coach in Williamsport. He's now the major league pitching coach for the Oakland Athletics. he played a huge role in my development and getting me ready for that year from spring training on through the duration of that season. So I have to give him a lot of credit in taking time out to help me develop certain skills that I didn't even know that I possessed. And it all started to, come out that season and beyond.
What were some, ballparks in the single A and double A system that you kind of enjoyed playing at? There's a lot of great venues out there.
Man, so to start, since we were on the New York Penn League, enjoyed going to Brooklyn because the stadium was in Coney Island.
Oh, that's awesome there.
Also Staten Island, yeah. Also Staten Island, who were the Yankees. The Yankees played there, so going to those two places were neat. Staten Island, we can jump on the ferry and cross over into the city, and then like I said, with Brooklyn, the Brooklyn Mets being on Coney Island, it was kind of a nice little vibe going on there. Single A, not too many ballparks that I would have liked. Going to the city of Augusta, knowing that the Masters were always held in Augusta every year, so being in that city and that atmosphere around the time that the Masters were going on was kind of cool. High A, going to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina for sure, for a lot of different reasons.
Kenny
And then
Powers.
Double A, yeah, definitely. But Myrtle Beach, you walking across, and it's all the clubs and all of that in the between your hotel and the field. So you already know where I'm going with that, Jordan. So we
Oh,
won't
absolutely.
jump into that. We won't jump into those details. But Double A was cool. Going to New Hampshire, playing at home in Altoona, Pennsylvania. That was always a great experience. Erie, Pennsylvania, Reading, Pennsylvania. All of the spots in PA were pretty cool to go to and visit. Um, Also, AAA Indy, playing in Indianapolis. We played in Ottawa. I had a great time in Ottawa while I was in AAA. Other than that, maybe Toledo. What else? Another place, maybe Louisville, Kentucky. Those places were cool to go to, and every big league city is great. So
Oh,
I don't
absolutely.
even want to start naming those, but those are just a few places I enjoyed going to through my minor league career.
Man, I remember best major league experience I had. Actually, you know what? I think I watched you I don't know if you're on the roster, but that's when I saw my first major league game. Was in 2006. The family took a trip here from Winnipeg to Wrigley Field, man. That was a dream come true. Me as a fan
Was
and
it in September? Was it in September? Was it earlier in the season that year? Do you remember?
I remember there was a lot of hype on Greg Maddux at the time.
Yeah,
And I think that was September. That might have been September.
because I got called up that year, and I didn't pitch, but my first big league experience was at Wrigley. So you
Wow,
might have been
man.
at the game during the time I got called up. Even though I didn't pitch, I was there. I was on the team at that
You're in
particular
the
time.
clubhouse
So
or you're like in the dugout.
exactly,
Dude, man, that's
exactly.
awesome. You know what?
It's
As
crazy.
as a fan that loves the game, I do remember that first time, and I want to give a shout out to my dad and my uncle that were able to get the tickets for that because you know what? I remember Pittsburgh played and it was like walking through a time machine. When I walked right into Wrigley, it was literally like a time machine. Going back into 1920, 1930s, like you could almost imagine the history going through your mind. So, what was it like when you're suiting up as the opposing team? I'm sitting there in the stands. You probably were there, my first major league game. So I'm sitting there in the stands
Yeah.
having this experience. What's your experience as a player putting on a uniform?
Man, it's classic because you think about the work that you put in and how you have to be consistent and persistent in order to get there because not everybody gets to the big leagues. We know that.
It's
Not
hard, man.
everybody gets there, so it's very hard. Like you said, it's difficult to do.
So many
So,
levels you have to go through. I feel that's what makes it hard.
yes,
There's rookie, A minus, A plus, double A, triple A
all of
major,
it.
and then there's winter
Think
ball
of
too.
exactly. So think about all those things and for me, our season was over in AAA and I'm just sitting down eating and hey, you're going to the big leagues. You're going to Chicago tomorrow, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I froze, man. Like, I didn't know how to react to that news because I wasn't expecting. I was having a great season and I was hoping but I wasn't expecting to get told at that time. So to go to a place like Wrigley, it's a legendary stadium, it's a legendary atmosphere, it's a legendary neighborhood when you talk about Wrigleyville.
I
So to
love it
be in
there.
the midst of that, exactly, to be in the midst of that is kind of cool, man, to play at a stadium like that. I took a piece of ivy off the wall. That was part of my souvenir that I took away from my first big league game. So took that and just kind of I took it all in, man. Just breathed in the air and just looked around and enjoyed the atmosphere and what was going on. So it was a blur. I can only remember certain things. I can't remember a whole lot, but I definitely enjoyed being in that big league uniform because it's tailor made to your body how you want it. So it's not a minor league uniform where you got to take what they have. Big league uniform, you got your name stitched in your pants. You got the exact size you want for whatever you want, however you want your pants to fit, however you want your jersey to fit. It's tailor made, so
In the
it's
minors, you
definitely
have
a good,
to.
comfortable feeling.
Yeah, absolutely, and to have that name stitched in at the top level absolutely is something, especially in the minor leagues when you used to have to go to Walmart or not Canadian Tire, but none of that there, but Walmart or Kmart to get a belt for your uniform. Some teams are good, some teams aren't have as much money, so. From going from buying belts to having everything custom made must have been quite a pleasure. Who are some guys you enjoyed
Oh,
playing with in their first few games there? You played 5 games in your debut season, so who are some players that you kind of just remember enjoying playing against and playing with?
I mean, that's a lot. I mean, I'll name, a couple guys that got me my first two suits. Solomon Torres, who was a really good closer at the time. He got me one of my first suits. You're talking about Sean Chacon. These are guys that I never came up with through the minors that the only way I could play with them is at the major league level. You're talking Freddie Sanchez, Jack Wilson, Jose Castillo, rest in peace to Jose Castillo, Adam LaRoche, who I played summer collegiate ball with. We're teammates at the big league level now. You looking at Jose Bautista, who I played with in the minors, Rajay Davis. It's a lot of guys. The list goes on and on. But we had a young team, and to see guys work hard and finally get to where they wanted to be, as I mentioned, the Jose Bautistas, the Rajay Davises, talking about Paul Mahalam, Tom Gorzolani, Zach Duke, Matt Capps, all those guys I've seen, we all grinded it out in the minor leagues, and for us to meet up at the major league level at a certain point in our careers was kind of cool to see. And I know I'm missing some guys, but the Ryan Domits, guys like that I enjoyed being around when I came up in the big leagues.
So when it comes to like a merchandise perspective, teams come out with trading cards. Hey, by the way, shout out, get the Jordan Garber now trading card. But you got
That's what's up.
that's what's up. Man. You got the real deal though, man. You got Upper Deck, you got Tops producing cards actually being part of a set and signing a contract. Now, I don't know if you don't have any certified autograph cards, but you do have some serial numbered cards, some rookie cards, like quite a few major league cards produced. So when that first card came out and you got the call for that, was that an even bigger dream come true, or is that just second nature, part of the job?
Heck yeah, man. Heck yeah. Just think about, I don't know how old you are, but I know you're much younger than I am, Jordan. I grew up collecting cards, bro. I grew up collecting baseball cards, football cards, basketball cards. We used to trade them. We used to go to the card shop and try to sell off some cards, so on and so forth. So for me, a kid that used to walk to the card shop, a kid that used to get in trouble in class for wheeling and dealing, trying to trade cards,
Me
to
too.
actually have your own baseball card, man, I'm still scratching my head about that today. So just imagine, and even with me, I do a podcast now. That's one of the questions I ask on my guests. Would they rather the video game or the trading card? It's 50-50. For me, it's the trading card all day long because it's something I grew up doing as a youngster. Now I have my own, just like you got your own, buddy.
Yeah,
It's, it's,
absolutely. I
it's
mean,
surreal, man. It's crazy.
it's a dream come true. I didn't really. I kind of did it from a merchandise and advertising standpoint. Yeah, I didn't really earn it as much as you did. But hey, I debuted in wrestling in 2008, and I was in a battle royal. And then we got to interview some great names, including yourself. So I guess why not? I'll take it.
Yeah, you might as well do it. You gotta definitely brand yourself. So however you need to brand yourself, hey, let me go ahead and do what I need to do to get my name out there, so I can get more traction with this podcast and whatever else I'm doing.
Man, how is like when you're in the middle of it with Pittsburgh, like in the middle of 2007? We'll talk about Korea later, but how was like 2007 for you as well? Because now you have more games under your belt, and you're playing at PNC Park, and people are starting to know your name more and more each day. You're on fantasy baseball rosters. People have their eye on you. When you're in the majors, even if you're not the top relief pitcher or start pitcher, you're still on people's fantasy team. Like when I do my fantasy baseball, fantasy football. So, like, what's that like? Actually producing pretty good numbers, and being on fantasy stats and things like that, and actually getting into it in a major league career. How was that for you?
Yeah, it was tough. It's crazy. I never even thought about fantasy at that time. I was so focused on making sure I solidified my place on the roster as a dependable guy, whether I'm starting or relieving. It was a tough go at the beginning because I didn't make the team right out of spring training. I got called up soon after. So it was a bummer for me not to make that team because I thought I was doing everything that I needed to do in order to have a place on the opening day roster. That didn't happen. Again, it was a tough start for me, but then found my groove and was able to get back up there and join the team and contribute. So once that happened, things started to get a little bit better, and I was able to excel on the mound. But again, the business side of things kind of took over, and some changes were made based on my role that didn't sit well with me, but it affected me from a mental standpoint and affected the rest of my season. And we talk about mental health all the time, Jordan, and that's the first time I had any type of encounter with some mental health issues based on things that were being done in the sport of baseball at the major league level when it came to Shane Youman and what he was going to be doing as a ball player. So, um, again, I enjoyed that season. It was a lot of accomplishments that were made, not only from me, but from the team. Continue to build bonds with players, but it definitely, that year definitely took effect on me, a huge effect on me mentally. And it's something I had to deal with and battle through for the coming years after that. But 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 to answer your question, great year. I was able to do some things, like you mentioned, but fantasy playing, fantasy leagues and stuff like that. Being able to contribute to some guys or girls who had me on their rosters was cool. But I know I dealt with some things that was a little bit tougher than people maybe thought I was going through at the time.
No, absolutely, and everyone has a story. You know what I mean, and that's what people have to understand is like every single person has a story, and no one
Indeed.
knows, which story is what. But you know what, the Atlantic League, me as a Winnipeg Gold Eyes fan, this league. It should be there. It deserves to be there. But this league, they take our major league players sometimes. But it's all good. I love the Atlantic League. It's an amazing,
That's the
amazing
part
league.
of it, man. That's all part of it.
That's all part of the independent system because the Atlantic League is a higher independent level. For instance, like local wrestling here, there's an independent wrestling league here, but there's going to be a big one in New York City. It's still independent, but it's like a higher sort of level. So at Atlantic League, they produce so many major leaguers, and I think they just partnered with them now. They were the first to partner. They're a partner league. Same with the American Association. Did you hear more about that actually before we go into that?
I knew a little bit. I think it was 2019 when the Atlantic League was starting to experiment with some of the rule changes that MLB would possibly consider implementing into that to the le- to that to their games or to their league or what have you. So I didn't know how far along they were in a partnership or how much they'd work hand in hand with certain things, but I do know that much that MLB would start experimenting with certain things through the Atlantic League and make decisions on bringing it into the MLB, moving forward. That's all I knew about that.
Speaking of experimenting with things, I see a lot of this on the independent level. I don't know the status of it in the major leagues right now. I think there's only a certain amount allowed. But did you chew when you played ball? And if you didn't, or even if you did, who are some other players that like chewed the most tobacco?
Man, I don't even know. I couldn't tell you who chewed the most tobacco
Silly
in the
question,
big
but just out
leagues.
of curiosity, like who is a
Yeah,
big chewer? Because like that shit is strong. Sorry, that stuff is strong.
it is. It is strong. You could, I guess, I don't know if you can cuss on your podcast, man,
Yeah, you can. It's
but
totally all good. But like, I couldn't imagine
yeah.
on a sunny day, chewing tobacco or chew or snuff and putting it under my lip and then running in the hot sun and like, having to make some solid defensive plays.
Oh,
Like, it amps you up though, probably.
it, it's a learned behavior, man. It's something that you have to practice. I couldn't do the tobacco to dip. Occasionally once a year I might have one, but I had a bad experience in college, so I stopped with the dip. But I would chew the red man, the stringy stuff. I'd wrap that in some gum and do that because that doesn't give you that buzz. But a couple times a year I do that. As far as somebody that would chew a lot, man, I don't know. Like I can't really pinpoint a
What a
guy
bizarre question.
that I would say, he had to have that dip, man. I don't know. I mean, the only guy I could think of right offhand would be Sean Chacon because I never thought he dipped, but he definitely would get a dip in every now and again, and when he got one, he got one. About half the can. So it's you guys like that you see occasionally might do it. Your Ronnie Paulinos, who's a catcher with the Pirates, guys like that, man. But I can't really pinpoint anybody that I knew did it, and it was like, dang, bro, you spending thousands of dollars a year on dip. Why? Nah.
we'll
But I
just
did it
leave.
occasionally though.
Well, we'll just say Ronnie Paulino. I apologize. What a great bizarre question, but it's pretty funny, that's for sure. But how was the Atlantic League? Your first season there, because that is quite a transition.
It's definitely quite a transition after being in the big leagues the previous year and being with the Phillies for a little while before getting released. It was tough for me. Probably something that I shouldn't have done right offhand and just kind of wait out and see what would happen from affiliates. It was tough, man. Kind of cool because the competition was very high level, and like you mentioned earlier, a lot of big leaguers playing in that league. So it was cool in that sense to be playing against certain guys you may have seen on TV and stuff like that, or maybe even faced in the past. But from a mental standpoint, I just wasn't in a good place when I got to the Atlantic League, to tell you the truth. It wasn't until I was there for a couple of years where things started to unfold for me, and I was getting better from the mental side of things, and I was able to have fun and get back to doing what I did, what I knew I could do on the baseball field. So it was a tough go, man. But to kind of play against that top competition on a daily basis, it definitely kept you on your toes.
Now, I want to kind of before we talk about the CPBL, I kind of want to talk about these winter leagues. In Venezuela, in Puerto Rico, and in the Dominican Republic. Playing in all those major markets is still a huge standstill, and they take baseball just like they do wrestling very, very seriously. At least in Puerto Rico, they take wrestling very seriously. So, what was it like, playing in the winter leagues as well? Are there a lot of eyes on you, or are you just focusing on your development?
Oh, definitely. I went there early on, Venezuela, to get more experience after being in the big leagues. You're seeing the best players from that country play because they're fans, they're hometown folks. They don't get to see them play during the summertime because they're in the States playing. May only get to see them on TV occasionally, but maybe not. So for those guys to have a league to come home to and play during that time is huge, not only for them but for the fans and the people that support them from their native countries, especially like I said, the Venezuelans, the Dominicans, those places. Puerto Rico is a little bit different, being a U.S. territory, but even in Puerto Rico, you see that, and you see those guys play a little bit harder and do a little bit more because they want to put on a good show for the fans that don't get to see them in the summertime. So it's highly competitive.
I
If
know
you're
you're
coming from the
asking.
States or any other place to play, you got to have your A game. but it's more so for you to get better as a ball player, learn certain things or work on certain things that you may need to improve on. Or you might have guys looking for jobs, such as myself playing in the winter leagues, the years I played in Puerto Rico, the years I played in the Dominican. I was trying to get back into affiliated ball or get overseas, Korea, Japan. So you see it for different reasons, but that's why those leagues are so competitive, because you have guys out there that are hungry, that are not satisfied with where they are, or are trying to find a job somewhere.
Now, one question I like saying to a lot of wrestlers is, what is it like working in front of certain crowds? And you know what? You are kind of, in a way, as a player, working in front of a crowd, especially a hometown crowd. And talk about, the dynamics of just working in front of a crowd as a baseball player in general, and then watching yourself do that all the way from college up to the majors. Was there any nostalgic effect in terms of that?
Well, I mean, I would say I'd answer it like this, Jordan. In my opinion, playing at home, I think it's a player. I won't say a player, but for me, for me, I have to control my emotions, control my adrenaline, because you're playing at home, a place you're used to being at. You got the hometown crowd going for you, so you're going to have that excitement. You're going to have a little bit of that anxiety. You're going to have that adrenaline rush. So in order for me to excel on the field and do my job, at home, I have to be able to control that, right? I have to be able to control that. On the road, for the most part, the fans are against you. So for me, I feed off that. I feed off that negative vibe, or that vibe of the opposing crowd being against me and wanting to see me fail. So that focus for me, I'm focused because I want to go out there and do my job and shut them up. So at home is controlling emotions. Okay. On the road for me, it helps me focus because I know they're against me and don't want to see me do well.
Now, what was it like, playing in, you played in Korea, but first playing in China there, playing for the, what was it, the Monkeys? How was that, man?
Yeah, Lomigo.
That's a crazy, we talk about transitions, the Atlantic League is a whole transition, but, when you're talking about going now from the Atlantic League, which is still U.S. ball, all the way across overseas, like, whoa, man, like, that's crazy. So what was that like for you at the beginning?
I mean, at the beginning for me, leaving the Atlantic League, as you know, the independent leagues, you don't make any money. And I was at a point in my career, Jordan, man, I had to make a decision: either shut it down, finish school and get a job, or or do as much as I can and get an opportunity to get overseas if I'm not getting any attention from the affiliate from the affiliated teams in the states, major league teams in the states. So the opportunity came for me, um, to go overseas, to go to Taiwan and play. I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place, man. I'm not making any money. I don't have any money. So I'm getting an offer to go play and make a nice chunk of change. So I'm back on my game mentally. I'm strong. I want to take advantage of it. But when I got there, definitely eye opening. Way different from being in Venezuela or Puerto Rico. I'm in Asia. I don't know how many hours away, 12, 13-hour flight if I had to get on a plane, or when I did get on a plane. So it was a business trip for me though. I had to stay locked in and stay focused, and bring over what I was doing in the Atlantic League. And that's just what I did. I had tunnel vision because I knew I wanted that to grow into possibly getting an opportunity in Korea or Japan based on how I finished the season off in Taiwan. So yeah, it was eye opening. A lot of things that I saw caught me by surprise. I was kind of a deer in headlights, but I kept things in perspective and knew I was there to take care of business, to hopefully get a better opportunity the following season.
Before we go to the Giants, Best Mexican league ballpark you played in.
Man. I would have to say, um,
Tabasco? Or maybe probably Mexico
no,
City, or Monterrey was the biggest one, I think. The biggest
yeah,
stadium.
but it's another place I'm thinking of, and I can't call out the name, man. I apologize,
No, it's all good.
but, but, and it's on the tip of my tongue. I just can't call it. But I know that the city was real green. It was nice, but
Southern
I can't
Mexico?
call out the name. What is it?
Was it in southern Mexico?
I want to say so. Yeah, it wasn't too far from Cancun, I don't think. So I think it was called Merida, but the name
Oh, I
for the
found it.
team, I forget the name of the team.
I think I found it. Let's see. You might be referring to Puebla, um, Aguasente. There's a North Division and a South Division.
Yes, yes, yes.
Veracruz,
Yeah, it's the
maybe.
South Division for sure.
Veracruz,
That's where all the good stuff at, man.
yeah, Tabasco. I always found. Did you ever end up playing there in Tabasco? Because like that's pretty far south in
Oh,
Mexico, and that's like near the jungles and everything.
yeah, nah. I don't think we traveled to Tabasco when I played.
It's really far
We
south.
didn't travel there. Yeah, we didn't travel there.
No, yeah, there is definitely in the South Division. I'm thinking you're referring to Puebla or Oaxaca or Carmen.
There you go, Puebla. Yep,
That
that's the place.
what made the stadium there so nice? Just the crowd, the feeling off the
I don't
crowd, or
know.
just the
I just
area.
think just the environment, the area. Like I said, it was green. It's green. It's green. You see a lot of trees, everything. It's just the nature,
Niger
the
Morgan
nature of
was on
being in
that
that
team.
area. Yeah, Nigel was a baller, man.
Willie Tavares too, Ruben
Nigel.
Rivera, Carlos Quinton, all those guys played on that
So,
team.
Jordan, you mentioned Dip earlier. That would
Yeah,
be a guy, Nigel Morgan.
Niger Morgan. He
When you're
did.
talking dip, yes, huge dips
What year was that freak out that he
all
had?
the time.
Do you remember that?
That had to be when he charged the mound.
Yeah, that was crazy. I remember watching that game.
That was probably 2009, 2010, somewhere around then.
Man, it just seems like yesterday. Those times just fly by.
Yeah, that guy ain't scared. He's a hockey player. He's a hockey guy too.
Yeah, he does like hockey too, actually. Very talented ball
Yeah,
player.
definitely, man. But yeah, that's the dip guy. I didn't think of Nigel, but yeah, if you ask me about dip, Nigel Morgan.
Definitely, man. That's really cool. How cool is like the Giants in Korea? You played 3 seasons there, so you're loved by the team and the organization and all the fans there. So, making a name for yourself in Korea. That as it for a wrestler, it's like going to Japan and making it big. So, how was that for you?
It was great, man. I think Taiwan prepared me for Asian style baseball, but I was kind of skeptical about Korea at first because I thought it would be the same as Taiwan when it comes to the atmosphere and the food, but I was sadly mistaken. It was definitely much better. But for me, the team, everybody welcomed me with open arms. It was huge that I had a guy, the other foreigner that was on the team. He had been there two previous years, so he helped me to adjust in a major way. If not for him, I don't know how well it would have gone for me. But to say that the team welcomed me with open arms, I had a guy with some experience there to take me under his wing and show me the way. It was an unbelievable experience. I miss that place all the time, especially Busan, South Korea, which was the city that the Lotte Giants played at. Southern part of the country reminds me of being in Louisiana, and I live in the southern part of my state. The way the people treated you, the fanfare, so on and so forth. It made for a great experience for me.
Any good Korean barbecue you had down there?
I'm not a big Korean barbecue guy. I like some of the other food
Southern
in
barbecue.
Korea. I'll do it. It's a social type deal when you're doing Korean barbecue,
Hmm.
and I'll do that for that standpoint. But if I had to pick a certain type of food, a certain type of Korean cuisine, it wouldn't be my first pick. Wouldn't be Korean barbecue.
Hmm. Well, when you try new things, you acquire new tastes, and you just probably fall in love with new sorts of entrees and things along those lines.
Oh, believe me, man, and just little stuff like I said, having those teammates that welcome me in, them taking me to different places, having a guy from the states that had been there 2 years prior to kind of showing me the ropes. That helps open up your I guess spread your wings and expand your horizons with trying different things and going different places.
Definitely, and it's culture shock too. I remember doing the Northern Deaf Tour and going all the way up north, to work in front of crowds and be a referee and do shows was crazy because far up north things are more expensive and it's definitely a culture shock. So when you're even going to different states and playing in different leagues, it's different because the southern part of the United States is a little different from the Midwest in terms of food and stuff like that. So doing all that across the world must have been a great thing for you. But that's
For
kind of
sure, but a great experience.
most definitely, and I'm sure you wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. But you'd made a transition. You made a transition from baseball player to podcaster. You currently run your own podcast. I actually listened to it. Charlton Jimerson, solid outfielder, one of my favorites. Watching him play. How did you want to do a podcast? Was it for the love of the game, and you still wanting to be involved?
Well, it was for a couple of reasons, man. One, I've always kind of admired the media side of things when it comes to broadcasting and doing pregame, postgame analysis and things of that nature. So it was an idea that came to mind a couple of years ago, and it actually was going to be geared towards LSU, former LSU athletes, like a where are they now type situation. But I didn't know if that would be a conflict of interest with the university, so I kind of just let that fall by the wayside. And then when COVID-19 shut us down and we sitting in the house not doing anything because we can't do anything, the thought of a podcast came back to mind. And I did a podcast prior to and mentioned to the guy, hey man, I've been thinking about doing my own. So he encouraged me and gave me that extra motivation to go ahead and start. I had a lot of time on my hand because I was in the house all day. And I just slowly but surely started doing some research and getting just enough equipment to get going, and came up with that idea of League Talk, the League Talk podcast, where I would interview current and former athletes, no matter the sport, and just kind of find out about their journeys and making it to the highest level of their sport, and just talking about those experiences and things that they're doing now if they are retired and stuff like that. So that's just kind of how it all came about, man.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, do you follow the current baseball product right now? Do you currently watch the majors that you follow this season?
Somewhat. I didn't follow this season. It's just not the same.
Yeah,
Not
I
being able to
agree.
have fans, it's just different. It's just been different. I didn't
So
watch any
different.
sports. I watch football right now, but basketball when they restarted the season, baseball, I didn't watch it. Just I don't know. It just was a different vibe, and I wasn't too interested in it.
I really hope this coronavirus thing, man, just ends because as much as it's affecting wrestling as a sports fan, because that's always been what I love from the get go. Sports. I'd always watch the games, and now that's even being affected. Everything in our world is. So I'm not the one to panic about it. I just follow the rules and do what the rules say. But at the same time, how is this changing sports altogether, and how can the sports world recover from this after this pandemic is all settled?
Oh man, it's changing. It's affecting it in a major way. Obviously, some places allow fans, but it's only, let's say, 25% capacity. Louisiana, they're playing sports in Louisiana, but no fans can attend the games. Especially with the football season going on, you know what it did to the NBA. Even though those teams are playing, it's just taken away from the fan experience. Obviously, some money, dollars, and stuff like that. It's affecting it all in a major way. And I'm sure I'm not the only person in the world that's lost interest in watching the sport since this pandemic has hit. So you're looking at that too. Not many people are watching it even on TV, let alone being able to go to the games. So it's not only affecting sports, it's just affecting the world in a way that we didn't think. Especially with you, Jordan, being from Canada. I'm sure you guys live like we do. It's supposed to be a land of the free. We should be able to do whatever we want when we want, go wherever we want when we want. We can't even do that. So it's like
That's the
we're
thing.
in shackles. We're on lockdown for whatever reasons, or can only. It's almost like we're kids again. We can only do so much unless our parents allow us to do something else. That's just kind of how it feels, and it shouldn't be that way. So I don't know what could be done to alleviate this problem, and obviously get sports to being what they used to be. But it's going to take a lot of work from us all to get things back to normal, what we knew as being normal.
No, that's true. They had things going on with H1N1 and SARS in the past, but even at my job at the call center, I've even asked people, just random people on the phone, what are your thoughts on this? Out of your, because I would talk to seniors and I would be like, you as an 80-year-old person, is this the worst thing you've seen? And some said no, most said yes, and you know what? Either way it is, you just got to prepare and do the best you can to protect friends and family and obviously yourselves. So that's the only thing you can do, right?
Without a doubt, man, without a doubt.
But who are some players like you enjoy? Before this whole pandemic hit, who are some players that would stand out that you really enjoy watching like nowadays?
From the baseball standpoint, man, without a doubt, easy call, Mookie Betts. I mean, he should have a couple MVP awards instead of one MVP award right now.
I
But
agree.
we're not gonna get into that. I love watching Max Scherzer pitch, David Price. Um, you have a couple guys, Chris Archer. I like watching him play. Nowadays, you have Tim Anderson emerging as a star for the White Sox. Couple other guys, man. Your Bryce Harper, your Andrew McCutcheons, former Pirate himself. Just to name a few, man. I like the way where the game's going right now. You got some talent at the major league level, young kids doing some big things. So just hope the game continues to grow and guys can continue to do what they're doing without any restrictions when we're talking about this COVID-19 and limiting us in what we can do on a daily basis. But just that's just a few guys that I like watching.
Definitely. That is. I like watching a lot of players as well. I like Chris Schwarber. I think he's okay. Like,
Yes,
I haven't seen his numbers as much lately, but I always enjoyed watching him play. If you want to go for some old time players, we were talking about it earlier in the podcast. One of my favorite batters is actually Ryan Braun. I remember him. He's one of my
cool.
favorites. And Vernon Wells. And I'll say why Vernon Wells is my all time favorite player.
Yeah.
Although I do have a Gaylord Perry autograph I'm sitting right next to, which is pretty cool. But when I talk about Vernon Wells, is because he was awesome in Toronto. This was right when he got traded to the Angels. And you know what? In sports, there's autograph collectors and autograph seekers, and I'm not so much into it anymore. I'll do it for some giveaways for our audience, but I was literally another fan handed the card to Vernon Wells, and he recognized me, told me to throw it, and signed my card. Opposed to like 20, because when you're in the majors, I'm sure you went through the routine. There's 20 fans pulling things in front of your face, and it's hard to like get to each item. So like
Yes, sir.
Vernon Wells went right to me, man. And then while he was on deck in the middle of a ball game, he says you're welcome and waves at me because I got the behind home plate seats. So that
Yeah.
automatically made Vernon Wells my favorite player. Amazing
Stand up
class
guy
act.
right there.
He
Stand
sure
up
is.
guy. Stand up guy, man.
Man, he was great. I loved watching him play too before that. So that was the ultimate. It doesn't get much better than that.
For sure. For sure. A guy with that caliber.
Exactly. He just gives back to the fans, and that's an important thing. And that's what you're talking about with the whole coronavirus.